And the reform thing is, if you're sitting at a table and there's 20 people there and none of y'all been locked up, you ain't talking about reform. Yeah. Y'all just having a lunch. Yeah. And if the only dude at the table spent a couple weeks in there on some I couldn't make bail or some sideways stuff, you ain't talking about reform. If you ain't got a dude who did 10, 20, 30 years in the penitentiary, then been through some war, sitting at the table, you're not talking about prison reform.
Yeah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam. It's your brother Amir. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Perspective Podcast. The Perspective Podcast, as you know, is where we engage in intimate, intricate, and even controversial conversations so that the listener or the viewer can take away some benefit from the perspective of those who are experts in their respective space. So today I have a very special guest. To me, he don't need no introduction. But I'm going to give him an opportunity, inshallah, to introduce himself to you. Because he's a man of many virtues. And what he's invested in reforming the lives of thousands and thousands of people around the world. It's not enough time or hours in the day to give his story justice. So without any further delay, my guest, OG, Andre Norman. Pleasure having you on the show, G.
Peace, brother.
Yeah.
As introduced, my name is Andre Norman, and what I do for a living is called leadership development. I go around the world, and I teach world leaders how to do and be better. I've been to 20-plus countries. I work for multiple presidents and prime ministers, directors and agents of change. I don't do follower training. So if anybody's watching this is trying to be a follower, I can't help them. I have no desire to help them. I take leaders and I show them how to be better. Now, if you happen to be a follower and you want to become a leader, I can help you. But if you're cool on being a follower, tap out.
That's beautiful. Leadership is definitely needed, in this generation. As a father, you're a father as well. And I see when you travel, you keep your children next to you, keep your family next to you. And I think this is an obligation and something that men are entrusted with. But as I look at a lot of this generation, they suffer from lack of, masculinity or father figures in their homes. And the result of that has been, a constant increase in violence, drug abuse, and things that lead down a path of gradual destruction. And inevitably, it leads to either early death or, as you experience, time incarcerated in some of the worst prisons the United States have to offer. What's your perspective on what changed or transpired from your generation of youth, leading to the mindset and the behavior patterns of the generation today?
I didn't grow up in the 60s, but people grew up in the 60s who were forced to live in what they called ghettos or the hood because blacks, regardless of your status, weren't allowed to live outside of the neighborhood. The richest, the most famous, all in the hood. So you had doctors, lawyers, seamstress, store owners, all live in proximity. So you had witnesses that you can example around you. Yeah. 70s came, again, breakdown. I'm saying 80s come with the advent of crack and drugs, and now it's the beginning of mass incarceration. And then it gets to a point where, okay, the parents are now home, but they're not involved. They stop redlining districts and letting people buy where they could afford versus where they telling where they had to live. So those with means left. If you had the ability to move, majority of those people did. So now what you have are the people who aren't doctors, the people who aren't lawyers, the people who aren't shop owners leaving. And if we're not owning our own shops, because there was a time, Black Wall Street, we owned everything in our neighborhood, Harlem, everything in our neighborhood, the hood, everything in our neighborhood. Now with the entrepreneurs and the business people leaving, that's where other immigrant groups came in and started opening shops up because there was a void.
Absolutely.
And somebody's always going to fill the void. So all the businesses became owned by outsiders, you know what I'm saying, from our neighborhood. And then the people in the neighborhood became just supplying of money to other facets. And it just continued to break down. And then when the drugs kicked in, the separation came further. There was a time when we were kids, I used to be a stick-up boy. So I can tell you, somebody taught me exactly what to do and how to do it. I didn't just walk out the door one day and pick up a pistol.
Absolutely.
Somebody showed me. They said, yo, he's good at this. Let me show him he got that personality for this. He has a personality to be a pickpocket. Some dudes steal meat. Yeah. Some dudes sell drugs. Yeah. Heroin, coke, weed. It's all different. Some dudes, you know what I'm saying, do different things, breaking houses. People have different temperament and skill sets, for lack of a better term. My skill set lended itself to stick-ups. I just had that energy. So dudes taught me the stick-up game. Yeah. I did not learn it on my own. I didn't find out in cereal box. Somebody showed me and walked me through. And that's how I got my hustle. When crack came out, heroin, you had to know what you were doing. Yeah. And it was part of an organization. Same thing with coke, same thing with weed. When crack came out, anybody could stand on the corner and hold a vial, and people would come by. Yeah. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You needed no skills, no training, no anything. So now you have people in the streets who aren't trained, who don't have any street acumen. They had a great idea. Yo, let's go get this working. Let's go out to the corner and let's do this thing. Yeah. And that's what they did. So you have people who know nothing about the street, in the street. And they started ending up with money. And now it just reinforces we in the street. And it just became non-criminals in a criminal space. Absolutely. And that's where everything started going over the cliff. And then between the drugs and people getting strung out, now you have fatherless kids. You have motherless kids. You have grandparents trying to raise kids. And the disconnect just grew bigger and bigger. When I got to the penitentiary in 1985, there was a group of Vietnam vets that came to jail in the mid-'70s. And them Vietnam vets weren't scared of nothing. And they walked those hallways like soldiers. Yeah. Then in the late 80s, late 70s, early 80s, my OGs went in. And they were raised by the vets. Because them Vietnam vets patrolled them hallways. Like, yo, bro, this is what's going to be. And that's what it was. Then we came in the mid-'80s. And the OGs who were under the vets, so they were like kind of granddads to us, raised us the way they was raised. Then in the late 80s, early 90s came the gang kids. And the kids of the drug addiction. Those kids started coming to jail. Yeah. And that's where the disconnect came, because they had a different set of rules. And they had their rules. These are kids that were left to their own devices, forced to feed themselves, forced to clothe themselves, forced to care for each other. So they came to jail with this us against the world. Yeah. They didn't want to deal nothing with old people because old people let them down. Yeah. And from that generation, now you got their grandkids out here. The grandfather was neglected and left alone. Now you have the grandson, 2 times removed. So the disconnect came around 91 with the generational connection. Even on hustling, it's just split.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because I remember growing up in Harlem, the way the streets were structured, like you said, everything was in its respective space. You knew who the stick-up kids was. You knew who the hustlers was. You knew who the killers was. And no one was crossing these lines. These lines wasn't never blurred. No. The stick-up kid wasn't a socialite. He don't go to the club. He don't hang out.
Oh, no.
He the dude you see scaling the wall with a hoodie 2 o'clock in the morning, and everybody see him from deep and start tucking stuff away, putting stuff away. We had dudes that was the grand larceny dudes, you know what I'm saying? So anytime a car missing, you go pull up on them. They got a garage, you know what I'm saying, that they working with the Spanish dude, all the stolen cars in the garage. So it's like, I grew up exposed to the same thing that you alluding to, as far as, and not to glorify, but
there were lanes.
It was a lanes, and it was an organized situation. The streets ran and operated in the same capacity as a Fortune 500 company. So us as little kids, 8, 9 years old, we was able to go outside, make $100 a day for an 8-hour shift just being lookout. That's it.
That's
Standing on the block that I live on anyway. So it wasn't like it was anything strenuous about the task. It's like I'm already here.
Then based how you handled that, you moved up or you didn't.
You moved up to where you entrusted with being a pitcher, from a pitcher to a lieutenant, and so on and so forth. So it's like, and then also, and I've never seen any foreign face in my community unless it was the laundry. You know what I'm saying? The Chinese used to be in the laundry before we had Chinese restaurants abundantly. They used to, do the clothes.
Right.
You know, so like, it just gives me, pleasure to know that I was able to be present in a time when there were certain core values that existed in our community. But when I look at this generation today, as you mentioned, they just entered into a space without having to audition, without having to be accountable for anything, not having really to answer anybody. It was a certain kind of seniority thing. Well, my grandmother lived on this block. So that's
enough.
Yeah, that was enough. But most of these blocks was ran by cats that didn't even live on those blocks.
Right.
So I understand exactly what you're saying. But when it comes to, your experience, you spent 14 years in the prison system. You came home. You went to Harvard University, and acquired the education that you aspired to obtain regardless of what you experienced prior to that. And you took that education and everything that you experienced and went out on a mission seeking leaders. So when you said that, that just resonated with me because I have a very minimal capacity to deal with people who can't think for themselves. And that was one of the things I learned in my prison sentence, or my prison stint, is that I learned how to think for other people. And I never thought that was something that was required.
Oh, super required.
Super required. Because if you want to go home, you know what I'm saying, you have to, in some cases,
help people think through a basic scenario.
Exactly. Basic scenario. I done seen things go bad over the most simplest things.
No. Simple for you.
Yeah, simple for me. You're right. Simple for me.
Not simple for them.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with somebody who's been neglected, left on their own, forced to find their own way, nurture themselves, feed themselves, now you're talking about how do I process. I watched the interview the other day, and it was not picking on rappers, it was a rapper dude. Yeah. Dude said, what are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for myself. Mm. And I looked at the kid, right? And I could look in his face. No parents, no grandparents, on his own since birth. He
wasn't lying.
And I looked, I didn't know his story. I went and looked at his story after. I talked to someone who actually know him. He was like, man, that boy been on his own since forever. And it showed in the pain. The question, the answer was all pain.
Yeah.
And if you don't speak to somebody's pain, he raps, so they give him millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, here's another car, here's another chain, here's another bottle, here's another jet, or whatever thing they give him, but nobody's speaking to his pain.
There's no remedy in that.
So his pain is going to keep showing up.
Yeah.
And nobody cares about him. They care about what he can do for them.
And that's crazy because you could probably speak to this. Like when I grew up, we had PAL. We had Each One Teach One. We had a lot of programs within the community that offer assistance to parenting. And we were just talking about this earlier about you wasn't just your parents' kids. You was every parent in the neighborhood kids. And it's like, I remember, because I used to box, play ball and stuff like that at PAL. And let's say, I take sick and I don't show up for 3 days. And I don't send word to none of my peers that, I'm not going to be present. Those police officers that facilitated those programs will come and knock on your door because they were from the community. You know what I'm saying? They were from the community. They knew us all on first and last name basis, and they would actually come knock on the door and be like, "Hey, Miss Evelyn, I ain't seen Chauncey at PAL. What's going on? Oh, nah, baby, he's sick. Okay, well, I'm just checking on him." And it's like this type of governance.
Over.
It's over. It doesn't even exist.
Over.
So when mention this rap artist who I don't know, but I know that pain. I know that individual, and there's an abundance of those kids.
They're in the NBA too. They're in the NFL.
Yeah.
And know something? They're down at the corner. They're not just in they're in our community. We walk by people every day in pain. Yeah. And we don't speak to the pain. Oh, you want a sandwich? You want a ride? You want a job? Nah, dude, my mother left me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Help me process this. Yeah. My dad walked out on me, man. How do I deal with that? Yeah. I don't need a damn sandwich. I need someone to talk to me to make my life make sense. And we keep giving people stuff. And we keep giving people stuff. But we're not giving them what they need. We're giving them what they want.
Yo, check it out. It's your brother Amir, formerly known as Loon. And on this episode of Perspective Podcast, sponsored by Paid Meals, the Pay It Forward mobile application coming soon. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, Paid Meals is one of the most trusted companies when it comes to giving back to people in need. We have an array of partners from grocery stores, restaurants, food trucks, food carts, and certified private chefs, and a host of nonprofit organizations. So if you're interested in joining us in this fight against hunger and food insecurity, you can visit us at www.paidmeals.com, and you can register as a contributor, a receiver, or a participating vendor. The Paid Meals 2.0 mobile application coming soon, December 2023. Inshallah. So without no further delay, let's get back to the Perspective Podcast. Enjoy the show. So let me ask you, your experiences, what enabled you to be able to gauge those things? Because I think, like you said, to speak to your point, a lot of times we walk past each other every day and we don't even acknowledge some of the simplest things that's tangible, that's on the surface, let alone what's embedded, in the hearts and souls of some people. But based on your experiences, what enabled you to be able to gauge some of these things and to search yourself, what it means to rectify some of these matters?
I went to prison because I felt like I was on my own. My dad walked out. My mom was too busy. My sisters were gone. My brother wasn't helpful. I give you all the scenarios in the world of all the bad scenarios that happened to me. And the truth is, I didn't go to jail because nobody loved me. I went to jail because I couldn't listen to the people who wanted to love me. My teachers were trying to help me. I had coaches trying to help me. I was super articulate and gifted, and all these people kept lining up to try to help me. Mr. Bevilacqua, Miss Lane, Miss Henderson. I give you a list of them. I know every last one of them. Mr. Gillis. Yeah. They all tried to help me, but I refused their help because I wanted the help to be from my dad. Absolutely. And I felt as though if I gave Mr. Gillis that seat, then my dad can never sit there. So you can't sit here, Mr. Gillis. I can't accept your help. Yeah. Miss Henderson, I can't accept. That's my dad's seat. Yeah. And so I'm wanting it to be from him. And I'm 56 and it never came. So waiting for him, I gave up on everything positive in my life, which only left me negatives. Yeah. So I had positivity in my life. I had opportunities. I couldn't receive them or engage them because I was hurt. So when I went to prison, it wasn't because I hadn't have opportunities. I went to prison because I couldn't get past my pain to accept the opportunities. So I went to prison. I'm in there, and it was like when I got there, the homies were like, "Yo, what took you so long? We knew you was coming." It was like there was an expectation for me to be in prison. It wasn't an expectation for me to go to college or go play. They expected me they said, "We knew you was coming." It was all the dudes from principal's office who quit football, quit basketball, juvenile detention, fighting in front of the movies, fighting at the roller skating ring, all them dudes. We were all there. And we got down, we running the yard now every day. And for 6 years, it was just all hurt people hanging out. Then I finally woke up one day and I realized I was a king of nowhere. I got status, I've been through stuff. I woke up one day, I said, I'm the king of nowhere. We clowned the CEOs, but they went home every day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We used to clown the CEOs, oh, you ain't, But they went home every day, and I'm locked in a cell. Yeah. And I said, how am I winning? I really thought I was winning, too. That's the funny part. I'm locked in the cell, and I'm thinking I'm winning. I'm hurting people that look like me, and I'm thinking I'm winning. And I finally realized I wasn't winning. And that I said to myself, I want to be free. 6.5 years in, I said I want to be free. I looked at the black dudes, the white dudes, the Spanish dudes, the Muslim brothers, the Christian brothers, the dudes who work in the laundry, the dudes who work in the kitchen, the guys who walk the track telling stories, the 5%ers, the two. I looked at every group Not one group of people went home and didn't come back and did good. Every group went home and every group came back. I said, free don't work.
Yeah.
You know what free is? The parking lot. Everybody says they want to be free, and when they hit the parking lot, they've achieved their goal. They don't have nothing beyond the parking lot. So they go back to the block because they've achieved their goal already. Freedom is the parking lot. As soon as you walk out the door, you hit the parking lot, you've achieved your goal.
That's deep.
Everything's downhill. So I said, free don't work. What can I do not to come back here? That's why I said successful. I said successful people don't come here. So I'll go home, be successful, and I won't come back. And I picked Harvard University, not because it's the biggest school on the planet. It's the only school I knew the name of. I'm from Boston. You know what I'm saying? I used to ride a skateboard as a kid. So I used to ride my skateboard down in Harvard Square. So it's the only school I knew the name of.
Yeah.
So I picked the school I knew the name of. I came out my cell the next day. I got the team together. I said, I'm going home. I'm going to Harvard. I'm going to be successful. They wanted to laugh at me. I had a habit of stabbing people. So dudes didn't laugh. I'm like, no, I'm real. I'm about to do this.
No question, yeah.
And they were like, Dre, you can't do that. And they said, why? I said, well, they said, you're black. You're a gang leader. You're in the Hoover trying to kill 8 people. You was talking about killing 7 people. They gave me all the, you can't read.
Yeah. Your
family broke. And they told me all the reasons I couldn't go to Harvard.
Wow.
And I went back to my cell, and I was like, I ain't listening to them. That a crazy thing was, I could have came out my cell and said, yo, y'all, we got to ride on these dudes from the other side of town. They just suited up and rode with me for a body. Yo, we got beef with the CO, disrespect my mother in the V-room. Suited up, rode with me, body. Yo, the white boys out of pocket, man. Boo, suited up, rode with me, body. I said, let's go home and never come back. They said, we can't rock with that, Dre. I said, let's go home and never come back here.
Yeah.
They said no. Not one of the homies was like, yeah, that's a good idea, Dre. Let's rock with that.
Yeah, I had a dude I was locked up with named Sharul Bey. His famous statement was, I don't talk to people that don't come in the law library. Like, if you ain't in here trying to fight to get out of here, I don't even want you talking to me. I don't even want to talk to you. He said, if you come in and ask me anything about some law, I'm with that. But if you here on some foolishness, you want to ask me about some foolishness, or you want me to take you, down memory lane and all that. He said, I ain't with all of that. And it was crazy because I was already settled in my case. I already accepted that, okay, this is what I'm dealing with.
Right.
Cards are stacked against me. But we was able to have, other dialogue, and he stood on that. So when I hear you say that, it's definitely a testament that you have people that's with all of the nonsense, anything and everything that's going to contribute to all the horrific stories you hear about in the prison system. But as soon as you say, let's work to get out of here, you stand alone.
Oh, straight. So I wrote my OG. I'm saying this dude when I got off the bus, Dominic Williams, that taught me how to stay alive. Yo, man, I got a new concept. He was in the feds. Do your thing. Go for it. So I went in the room. I wrote a list of all the reasons that were stopping me from going to Harvard. I can't read that well. I got a whole bunch of time. I got 2 cases. I just wrote it all down. Then I went back to school, got my GED. That was 1. I went to anger management because I had a slight anger management problem. That was 2. I went to self-help groups. That was 3. I got a lot of addiction in my family. Not me personally, but I went to AA and NA. So I got to learn how to talk to these people. You know what I'm saying? That's 4. I just kept 5, and I just kept going. Then I went to the law library. Yo, Brooks, let me see my phone. So I went to the law library, and I started studying the law. You know what I'm saying? Because fighting on the yard was cool. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you about a whole bunch of that madness. You know what I'm saying? I've been to like 8, I've been in 9 different states. You know what I'm saying? Fighting. You know what I'm saying? Getting it in. And I thought I was winning, but I was really losing. You know what I'm saying? So I just kept going to the law library. Every day I'm in the law library. Every day I'm in the program. Every day. Then homies came up to me one day like, yo, Dre, why you keep going to these programs? Why you keep going? Man, what you doing? I said, man, I'm trying to fix my life, man. I don't want this to be that. Like, nah, man, you the smartest dude in the penitentiary. That was one of my tags. I was the smartest dude in the penitentiary. I said, but me and my father's relationship, man, got me acting wild and messing my life up. I'm trying to get out of here. They were like, man, what's really going on up there? What you really doing up there? These dudes that never go to programs. So now they're acting like I'm doing something foul. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm going to counseling tomorrow. I've been going to counseling every day, twice a day. I said, I'm going to counseling tomorrow. That's for sure. Now, 1 or 2 things I can talk about. I can either go up there and talk about me and my father's relationship and how it's got me twisted and acting out because I feel like he left me, or I can go to unit, get my banger, come back and bang you in the face, lay you down, and go to counseling and talk about that.
Yeah.
You call it, but I'm going.
Yeah.
He looked at me. I've been about that life.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was like some pump fake. I said, dude, I can talk about my dad, or I can talk about why I had to lay you down.
Yeah. Either way, I'm going.
I'm going. One of the two ways. It's your call. He says, Dre, that is foul that your father treated you bad. You need to go fix that. I was like, all right, cool.
No
I said, you sure?
No question.
Then he circled to me later on that night. He was like, yo, Dre, if you get the answers, let me know, because me and my dad got beef too. And I started helping people in jail. My first programs were all in the penitentiary. They weren't even on the street.
So yeah, on that note, I definitely want to get your perspective on something that definitely the meat and potatoes of this conversation. This question of this statement of prison reform. Like when I came home, you know, I seen that there were a lot of people advocating for prison reform. It becomes an interesting statement when you're in prison because it's something that constitutes working towards getting freedom from prison or any relief that may come, you know what I'm saying, through any laws changing, whatever the case may be. It is something that's definitely intriguing for a person that's fighting that fight. But when I came home, I noticed a lot of politics.
It's a business.
Yeah, it's definitely a business.
Let me give you this first.
Okay.
They be like, yo, how do you get out? This is Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Henry Norman. You can any Google. I just Googled it. For the reasons discussed, we hold that the prosecution against Norman in the Superior Court was barred from the prohibition against double jeopardy. The judgment against him on the charges of armed robbery is reversed. The verdict is set aside. The indictment is to be dismissed. So ordered. I stopped running the yard. I stopped running my mouth. I started reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying that's how I came home.
Yeah.
The crazy part is I could have reversed my case off rip, but I wasn't trying to. I wasn't trying to reverse my case. I was trying to be cool on the yard.
Yeah.
I was trying to be down. I was trying to get a rep and a status.
Yeah.
And my mindset wasn't go home. My mindset was be king here, king of nowhere. So when I flipped my case and I started working, I'm going to programs, and I'm like, every day I'm getting small wins. Every day I'm getting small wins. And dude's like, man, they ain't never gonna let that dude out. And I finally flipped my case, got going, kept moving, and I came home. And when I walked out to prison, I was in a youth program. We used to teach kids from juvie. They used to bring them up once a week. We talked to them. The kids were like, Dre, we happy you going home. Will you come see us at our youth center? All the OGs get out of here and they never come to our program to see us. We only see them when they come back to prison. Yeah. I said, you got that. I gave him my word. Walked out to prison, went to the parole office, signed the paperwork. I walked out, dudes were like, yo, where you want to go? You want to go to your girl's house, your mom's house, restaurant? I said, nah, take me to the youth center. They said, what you talking about? I said, take me to the youth center. Wow. 90 minutes after I walked out the penitentiary, I'm walking back in the juvenile detention center. And I started talking to them young men. I said, you're going to jail not because you're black. Not because you from the hood, not because you smoke weed. Somebody let you down. They weren't there for you, so you started acting out because you was hurt. You know what to do with that. You started self-medicating because you was in pain. And at 8, 9, it was cute. At 15 and 16, it's criminal. Yeah. Let me show you how to manage your emotions and how to fix yourself.
That part.
And I started working with kids. Day one, 90 minutes outside the door. I'm working with these young black boys because that's where I was comfortable. And after about 30 days, they say, Drake, can you come up and talk to the girls? So I don't know about being a girl. So I go up to the girls' unit. Rape, molestation, prostitution, domestic violence. And we tell little girls, oh, once you've been in the street, you no good for nobody. We tell little boys, just put on a suit and tie and get a shave. You go be good again. So I tell our little sisters, you can be whole again. Yeah. If he can smoke crack and you can smoke crack, if he can do this, you can be whole again. Yeah. And nobody was giving them that message. So I started giving little sisters message, you can be whole again. Then somebody said, Dre, man, there's some kids you denying. You tripping. Every day I work. They said, no, they white kids. You won't work with them because they white. I said, white kids ain't got no problems. This is their country. They own everything. They got everything. Yeah. I said, Dre, you don't get it. I go to all white school. They drink, they smoke, they cutting their wrist, everything. I'm like, what is that? I was bugged out. I grew up on Leave It to Beaver. There was none of that on the Partridge Family or Brady Bunch. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Yeah. I said, at least y'all got dads. They said, no, he ain't never. That dude's on the road all day running businesses. He tolerates my mom, puts up with us. We don't call him dad. We call him the guy that sleeps upstairs.
Wow.
So when I walked out of that school, I said, never again will I judge somebody based on my ignorance.
Absolutely.
If you call my phone, I'll show up.
Absolutely.
And I just started showing up. White kids, black kids, Spanish kids, Guatemala, Montana, Saudi Arabia, Australia. If you call my phone, I'll show up. And that's how I kept it. But I literally go into centers. I go into homes. I go into the hood. Then I started seeing people who do it for business. Mm-hmm. It's a business. Yeah. See, there's two things. There's helping people, and there's a business of helping people.
Absolutely.
I understood helping people.
Yeah.
Then over the first 4 years of home, I learned the business of helping people. Mm-hmm. We did 25 millions in grants. We did 25 M's the first 4 years I was home with the agency I was with. They did money. They specialized in the business of helping people. Yeah. And they were doing it based off my back. Like, absolutely. This is the story. I was like, oh, this is the game. Me and old boy don't get along, but he taught me so much about the business. Yeah. And I learned the business. We created, you heard Violence Interrupters? Yes. I created that.
Wow.
Anybody from any city, I don't care where you at, I created that in Boston in 99.
Wow.
I get the newspaper articles, whatever. Faith-based initiative, did George Bush sign in the law in 2000? My ex-wife wrote the charter. We created that. There from day one. John DiUlio, Mark Scott ran the office. I give you facts, dates, and the rest of it. It's not about look at me. I was at the front door. Reentry, I was in the room when they created the term. Yeah. So I'm in the room, and I'm watching them build this thing, and I'm learning. There was a program from Harvard University, Henry Louis Gates, #1 black professor. Yeah. He created a black encyclopedia. He had an after-school program, and he had all these black kids in Chicago going to it. First iteration cool, second iteration cool, third iteration kids disappeared. They couldn't figure out why. He called my boss. He says, I got a guy that can probably help you. They bring me down to Harvard Square. We go to this big giant house on Brattle Street, and we go in and, hey, Andre, how's it going? And they told me about the problem, and they had this guy came and looked in. They flew this guy from Sweden, and they just can't figure it out. They gave me the whole breakdown. They said, what do you think? I said, well, what did the kids say? They said, no, we brought the guy from Sweden. And I said, I heard that part. What did the kids say about why they're not coming back? Yeah. Well, no. We brought the professor in from, no, I heard that part. What did the kids say? Well, we have this stat test that we did. I said, dude, the only people that know why are the kids. You just need to talk to the kids. They're like, oh, wow, they're not lab rats. We can talk to them. Yeah. Then as soon as the bell went off and the light bulb shined, they, oh, man, thanks for coming, Dre. And they showed me and my boss to the door. I didn't think nothing of it. We get outside. We in front of the building. We about to start walking. My boss turned to me and said, yo, Dre. I said, what's up? He said, give me 200,000. I said, what? He said, give me 200,000. I said, dude, you know I ain't got 200,000. I'm out of jail for like a year, if that. Yeah. He said, no, give me 200,000. I said, dude, why are you playing games? Because he's not a game player. He's dead serious. Yeah. I'm like, why are you all of a sudden want to be in the games? Yeah. He said, I'm not playing games, Dre. You just gave them $200,000 worth of information. Yeah. For free. He said, respect your knowledge. And so many people go into situations and solve problems for $1 million universities, $1 billion programs, just solving problems off food you don't even like. Yeah. They had some carrots and cheese dip. I didn't even touch it. He said, for some food you didn't like, you get him $200,000 worth of information. Yeah. And that's when I came to understand my experiences had value.
Had merit, yeah, absolutely.
Now, he was exploiting the hell out of me, but that was a different story.
No question.
But I was at least getting a check off that.
Yeah, they definitely gonna pull you out when it's time, to sit in front of, investors, grant writers, stuff like that. But I want to ask you this in closing. Because like I said, in the introduction, like your story, I could do this with you all day, OG, like for real. I'm honored to have you here. But I want to know, what's your message for those who believe in this statement of prison reform? Because all throughout the media, many people who either experience incarceration, have a relative or loved one who's been incarcerated, or just genuinely feel some type of empathy for those who are incarcerated, they've all been sold on this concept of prison reform, criminal justice reform, you know what I'm saying, police reform, this term reform. I would like to know your perspective on these terms being loosely used, but what's your view on the merit
The
of
concept
these terms?
of reform.
The concept, yeah.
You can't reform something that was designed to do a thing. Let's reform the car. But if it doesn't drive, it's not a car.
Absolutely.
Let's reform the light. If there's no light, if it doesn't brighten the room, it's not a light. Prison was meant to punish. Full stop. Prison was meant to punish. And black folks being in prison, if you want to make it about us, prison wasn't created for us. As the law says, 13th Amendment, if you commit a crime, we can lock you up. Yeah. They built plantations and presentations around the country.
Every man is free until they commit a crime.
Until you commit a crime. Yeah. So they started giving us crimes.
Yeah.
They give us crimes and put us back on the plantations we just walked off of. The law says you can incarcerate me and make me a slave again, mean work with no pay. And that's what they did. That was the end of the at the end of the Civil War. The deal was, well, you can't have slavery, but if you lock them up, they can be slaves. So they hit him with the due process. Mm-hmm. We got our due process, fair or not, and then we became slaves again. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's been. So you can't reform a system that's designed to punish. Absolutely. You can't make that system not punish. It's punishment. That's what it is. Prison punishment, full stop. So if you want to punish people, we send them to prison. So making a kinder prison or gentler prison or smoother prison doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's not, wasn't designed. So either you come up with a whole different modality, but trying to make that prison better doesn't work. Yeah. I always say to people, they're like, well, why? We got all these programs in there. We got mental health. We got all this stuff in there for them. Why won't they take it? Now, I always ask people this. If you were in the Middle East someplace and you got snatched by a terrorist group and they threw you in a prison as an American, how long would you need to be in that prison before you trusted them? Yeah. I said, you are everyday American citizen, they snatch you up, some crazy terrorist group locked you in a basement. How long do they need to hold you for before you trust them? And they all tell me, never. Well, you snatched us up, you threw us in the prison, Absolutely. Now you wonder why we don't trust you.
Trust you.
I'm saying it's never gonna happen. Yeah. You get the surface, you'll never get the connection. Mm-hmm. Because in the eyes of black American prisoners, Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Henry Norman. United States of America versus Henry Norman. You know what I'm saying? State of New York versus you. State of. We've been prosecuted by the government. Yeah. If we did it or not, it's not the issue. Yeah. That's how we see this circumstance. Mm-hmm. That, therefore, becomes my enemy. I'm not taking accountability for my actions because I say you have part of me taking part in these actions. Yeah. End of the story is I don't trust the government. Yeah. So, therefore, I can't really get the full what they're trying to give me or set up for me. Yeah. And the reform thing is, if you're sitting at a table and there's 20 people there and none of y'all been locked up, you ain't talking about reform. Yeah. Y'all just having a lunch. Yeah. And if the only dude at the table spent a couple weeks in there on some I couldn't make bail or some sideways stuff, you ain't talking about reform. If you ain't got a dude who did 10, 20, 30 years in the penitentiary, then been through some wars, sitting at the table, you're not talking about prison reform. Yeah. When I say, people will argue, oh, you didn't start the violence interrupters. We had this group. My group was the first group created by former prisoners, staffed by former prisoners, led by former prisoners. We hired, we fired. We didn't need any supervision. We didn't have to ask nobody. We didn't check in with nobody. I was the boss. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was the boss. I didn't have to go, yo, Loon, is it okay if I hire this brother? Yo, is he okay? I hired who I wanted. Mm-hmm. No applications necessary. Yeah. Your application was your history. Now we have people who've never been to prison governing us. Yeah. How can you govern us if you ain't one of us? Exactly. So you're doing it from your best thinking. And I trust and believe in your heart. Your best thinking. But it doesn't, you've never been locked in a cell. You've never been locked in solitary confinement. You know what it's like to be locked up when your mother dies, your sister dies, or somebody tragic happens, you can't beat it. Another birth in the family, how are you going to speak to my pain if you don't understand my pain? Absolutely. You're managing grown men who've been through some stuff that you ain't never been through. And it don't work. So the reform thing, the only thing you can do to reform it is to stop people from going.
Going in.
So
Absolutely.
my big thing, I partnered with the South Carolina Department of Corrections. I sat with the director, Brian Sterling. I said, yo, we got to stop them from coming. We're going to work on the brothers inside, but we got to stop them from coming. And we go to elementary schools. We go to kindergartens. We go to first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade. We stop them from coming.
Yeah.
If you ain't trying to stop them from coming, you ain't saying that. I love all my brothers in the penitentiary. I got a number of love for everybody. But if you said, Andre, you got an 8-year-old kid in first grade, you got your grown man, 29 years old, at the penitentiary. What you doing? Give me the 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Homie, you just gonna have to make it. Give me the 8-year-old.
No question.
You know what I'm saying? Give him a chance.
Yeah.
Give her a chance. When I came home, my big homie was doing a natural life sentence. Florence ADX is the last stop on the road.
Yeah.
I don't know where your big homie is. Mine was in Florence ADX. We came home, we got legal money, we got lawyer money, we overturned his case, and we brought him home. Had another cat, one of the homies, doing a life. Went to the board, brought him home. Had an enemy of mine, dude I had war with. Went to the parole board, sat with him, brought him home. We can get brothers out. I'm not turning my back on nobody.
Yeah.
I go into the penitentiary every chance I get. I just did in your state, I just did 13 prison tour. Attica, Wyoming, Windy, Orleans. I could go down the list. Clinton, Upstate, Greenhaven, Greene, Coxsackie. Dude, we come and walk into tears. We up on dudes' doors like, yo, man, we here for you. We trying to bring you the message because there's a saying, you can't help people who don't want to be helped.
Absolutely.
And that's wrong.
Yeah.
There's a step before it. It's getting them ready to want help.
Absolutely.
And if you've been in that situation and you've come out of it, then you know the step before that they missing. If you ain't never been in it, you can't help me with that step, the step before. So anytime somebody says you can't help them who don't want help, you ain't never been in my situation.
Yeah.
Because I've been in this situation and I figured it out. So let me go back and give them the solution to that first step. Not step 5 or step 8, that first step of believing. That step out of the mud. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to be you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the reform thing is for a lot of people a hustle.
Yeah.
It's a flat out hustle. Yeah. They get grants from the state, from the city. You try to come on and they'll block you because you are real. They're going to follow you. They ain't going to follow them. It's all this. We doing ourselves in for a check. Yeah. They don't, listen, they do not need to send anybody down here to get in our way. They just send money down and watch us fight over it. We fighting over pennies. You know what I'm saying? The Ukraine had a problem. The American government, with your mind and his tax dollars, sent billions of dollars to help them people. Yeah. And they needed it. Liberia had a problem. Our country and other countries sent billions of dollars to help them people, and they needed it. Why aren't we asking for our school system to be overhauled? I'm not asking you to fix the prison system, because you can't. Yeah. Why can't we fix our school system? Educated people do educated things. Uneducated people do uneducated things. So the root cause of a lot of our issues can be fixed if we fix our schools. Don't reform the prisons, reform the school system. Because every next gang member, killer, rapist, murderer is sitting in a kindergarten right now. All he wants is a sandwich and a hug. For a pair of clean socks, I could have had you on the right path. For someone to be there for you right then to explain you know something, I know you're going through something and your family ain't 100% with you, but we got you. We're going to fill the gap before you fill it with hatred or hurt. There's kids in first grade right now that need to be talked to, walked through, listened to. We ain't talking to them. We at Attica talking to a 45-year-old man with 20 years in trying to convince him. Yeah. Why are we trying to convince a 40-year-old man when there's an 8-year-old staring you in the face?
Yeah. Needing some direction, needing some guidance.
Success is not a success without a successor. I think we need to pass that success down to the children.
I agree. It's been a pleasure, OG, for real. And I think that the listener and the viewer, it's a lot of things to take away from this conversation. Hopefully those that genuinely, and I mean genuinely, want to reform the circumstances that revolve around mass incarceration. I believe you just gave them the blueprint. So I want to thank you for just giving me $200,000.
We got a tablet now. You know they have tablets in prison?
Yeah.
There's a tablet in prison. We put content on the tablets. We put shows, education, travel, different lessons and business on the tablet. We do a show. It goes to 650,000 brothers all across the country. All of New York gets it. New York, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida. We're hitting Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. We're hitting 650,000 people with real information in real time. If you want to get out, it's not a me thing. I retired when I was 40. I came back out of retirement because I didn't teach people what I knew. So this is I ain't got no course.
Yeah.
Ain't no sign up for $5.99. This ain't a course.
Yeah.
Your man hit me 2 days ago.
Oh.
Your man hit me 2 days ago like, yo, man, my man want to do a podcast with you. That was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, nah, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Nah, listen, it's about helping, spreading the word. If I can be helpful.
That's a fact.
If I can be helpful, if you from wherever you from in the world, and you like, know something, he figured out how to go from prison boss to successful. I give you that. It ain't no charge.
Yeah.
It ain't no fee attached. It ain't no nothing attached. I will give you the game on how to go from where you are to successful. That's it. If they call you, you set it up, we'll go in the room, listen, I'll teach them. Do it after Saturday, Sunday, weekend, whatever it's going to be. I'll come in, give me a whiteboard, and it's done. Ain't no fees, just show up. You know what I'm saying? I did it. You know what I'm saying? And I will continue to pass it on. And that's the thing. If everybody's trying to sell it, they ain't about us.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. This was definitely very fruitful. And I hope that you continue on this journey and educate as many as you can. Because my takeaway from this is that education is key. We've heard it before. It sounds cliche to a lot of people, but it's a reality. And we have a statement in Islam that says, "Al-ilmu qabla qawli wal-amal." Knowledge precedes speech and actions. So as a Muslim, it's not permissible for us to speak or act without knowledge. Because anything that's done without knowledge, in most cases, will lead to destruction. So I'm just lost for words, man.
I got one request.
Yeah, okay.
So every speech I give, I speak around the world. And you name a company, multi I work for them. You know what I'm saying? They hire me to come in and do stuff. But every speech I give, I close with this poem. So let me see if I can find it. I can, I know I can. And if you got something behind this might close us out.
Good.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about you shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You are a child of God. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. As we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
It's nice.
Show up.
Show up.
Just show up.
That's it.
And if it's in you, it'll show out.
Now, Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'een. On this episode of Perspective, there was a lot of things to take away. A lot of experiences that were shared. A lot of tangible things that can be utilized for change. But most importantly, the importance and the precedence that education takes on all matters is something that has to be included in the process of establishing change. There's a statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. He says, "Fahlam innahu la ilaha illallah wastaghfir li dhanbik." He said, know that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, then seek forgiveness. So in the chronological order in which this ayat was revealed, it establishes knowledge is first. So without knowledge, we're pretty much living according to our whims and our desires. And in some cases, we're even imitating the animals. And based on that is the reason why, in many cases, we're treated like animals. So my message to you is to educate yourself. Regardless of what space it is you choose to exist, know and understand all the ins and outs before entering that space. Because the days of freestyling is over. So I want you to share, like, and more importantly, comment. Because your comments and your insight is important to understanding the perspective of any matter. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming out. Barakallahu feek. Wa jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.